May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be ever acceptable in your sight, Christ, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Growing up on a farm, there was a long and winding dirt road that came up to our house. And before you could see any truck coming up that road, you could see the cloud of dust. And as that cloud of dust rolled along, following whatever vehicle was approaching, we would run out to see who was coming, to see who was coming home. It was a precursor of an arrival, but it was also the reality of life. There was dust everywhere. There was dust on our table. There was dust on the porch. There was even dust in our mouths if we were playing outside on a particularly windy day. And my mom was constantly trying to fend off the dust. And so we would be sent out to water down the dirt road as it approached the house. We'd stand there with our hose, squirting it down, watching the fat drops of water plop onto the dry ground and get absorbed. And as we sprayed down the dust, tamping it down, gradually small rivulets of water would run down the road. Sometimes we'd let the ruts at the bottom of the driveway fill up and play in the mud. Yet, no matter how hard we tamped down the dust, no matter how long we watered, even until there were ponds on the driveway, the dust would return. We can't hide from our dustiness. This year, we sent packets of ashes out to all of you, to all of those on the church mailing list with correct addresses, that is. And as people began to get them, I heard reports that the ashes on the inside had crept out of their little container and dusted everything with ash. They were uncontained despite our best efforts. And that's fitting in a year like this because it has been a dusty year. If we think of the dust as a reminder of our mortality, every moment, every newscast, every newspaper report has served as dust. And we've seemed unable to get rid of the dust from our lives. It reminds me a bit, actually, of our home growing up and how the dust would collect on the screens on the windows until gradually enough would accumulate that everything through those windows was viewed through a film of dust. You could even run your finger along the screen and leave streaks. No wonder my mom tried to have us hose down the driveway. But doesn't that suit this idea that we have been looking through the dust this year? That we've been forced to deal with our own fragility in ways that make us incredibly uncomfortable. Long ago, living and dying was not something that anyone felt within their control. You lived and you died. There was no fending off that truth. There was no postponing the inevitable. Just was. And this idea that we don't have control over our health or we don't have control over our death is a really scary one nowadays. because we've wrestled control in those arenas in so many ways, through scientific and technological advances, through creams and ointments, through hair dye and dental work. We've fended off the signs of death, of the gradual decay and aging of the body. It feels kind of icky to say that, doesn't it? The decay and aging of the body. But it's true. No Zoom filter can mask that truth, that our time in the here and the now is limited. And there is no amount of water that will tamp down the dust and keep it from getting everywhere. And there is no envelope that can contain the fine, silty ash of our living and our dying. In this ongoing Lenten season, another season in the midst of pandemic, there's dust on everything. So let us both remember it, but also rejoice in the truth that it is the dust that unites us. It's the dust that reminds us. It is our origin and our destination. And remember how I said that the dust coming up the driveway was a sign that somebody was returning home, and as such was met with joy and anticipation? What if that's this dust too? A reminder that we are and will be coming home. In a moment, we'll be imposing ashes upon ourselves, taking the dust and forming it in the shape of a cross. We are held. We are home. We are united. We are dust. Amen.